Now, here's a curious thing. Imagine a proper town with people and houses, schools and shops. But this town has a rather unusual rule, one you don't find in many tourist brochures. In Longyearbyen, a small Norwegian settlement very far north, it is, shall we say, strongly discouraged to die. In fact, it's technically against the law. People live there, quite a few of them actually, around 2,000 at last count, but they have this rather unique item on their list of local ordinances. It certainly makes you sit up and pay attention, doesn't it? A town where shuffling off this mortal coil is, well, best done elsewhere. This isn't some quaint old forgotten bylaw dusted off for tourists. Oh no, this rule is taken very seriously indeed by the residents and authorities. Longyearbyen is nestled deep inside the Arctic Circle on the Svalbard archipelago. Imagine that for a moment. It's a place of stark, breathtaking beauty, but also incredibly harsh and unforgiving. The famous law isn't there for amusement. It's a very sensible, practical response to a peculiar problem. A problem presented by Mother Nature herself in her iciest mood. It's all about community survival and staying healthy in a particularly challenging spot on our planet. Just how far north are we talking about here? Well, Longyearbyen is perched about 1,000 kilometers, or roughly 620 miles, from the geographic North Pole. Think about that for a moment, the sheer remoteness of it. This makes it one of the planet's most northerly, permanently inhabited places. Life here is a constant daily negotiation with the formidable Arctic elements. A relatively small community, those 2,000 or so souls, calls this extraordinary place home. They live under conditions that most of us can barely begin to comprehend, including this rather strange little rule about not dying locally. The town itself has an interesting, if decidedly chilly, history. It wasn't always famous for its unusual stance on mortality, you see. It began its life in the early years of the 20th century, around 1906, as a humble coal mining settlement. That's right, people went all that way north to dig for coal, deep under the ice and the perpetual snow. This industrial past, focused on extracting resources from the frozen earth, significantly shaped its early development and its hardy, resilient character. But today, the thing that really makes Longyearbyen stand out from other remote outposts is this peculiar, much-discussed regulation, the one about it being illegal to die there. So why on earth would a town make such an extraordinary rule? The answer, my friends, lies buried deep within the ground itself. Or rather, the answer lies in what happens, or more accurately, what happened in that frozen earth. The main culprit here is a phenomenon known as permafrost. This isn't just ground that gets a bit frosty in winter. This is earth that remains frozen solid all year round, year after year. Not just the topsoil, but frozen solid, sometimes for hundreds of feet down. In Longyearbyen, the permafrost is a dominant, unyielding feature of the landscape beneath their feet. This characteristic was found to cause a significant problem around the year 1950. Now, what happens if you attempt to bury someone in permafrost, as was done in the town's early days? It's certainly not what you'd expect if you live in warmer, more temperate climes. The bodies, you see, simply don't decompose in the way they should. Or, if they do, the process happens at an incredibly slow, almost geological pace, taking decades or even centuries. This was quite a startling and rather unsettling discovery for the townsfolk back in the mid-20th century. It meant that traditional burials, the way human societies have respectfully laid their dead to rest for millennia, just weren't working as intended. The intense, unyielding cold of the Arctic essentially preserves, almost mummifies, anything buried within it. It's like nature's own vast subterranean deep freeze. This rather alarming lack of decomposition wasn't just a bit strange or inconvenient, it posed a potentially serious health risk to the living. If the buried bodies don't break down naturally, then neither do any harmful microscopic organisms they might have been carrying at the time of death. We're talking about nasty things like viruses and bacteria, the invisible enemies of mankind. These tiny, unwelcome guests could, in theory, survive for a very, very long time, dormant in the frozen earth. A particularly chilling discovery was made when scientists found that the virus responsible for the deadly 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, which had tragically reached even remote Svalbard, was still viable, still present in the preserved bodies of victims buried decades earlier. This wasn't just a hypothetical scare dreamed up by nervous officials. Scientists knew it was a genuine danger. An anthrax outbreak in the Yamal Peninsula in Siberia in 2016 served as a grim and timely reminder of these frozen threats. Thawing permafrost in that region, likely due to unusually warm summer temperatures, exposed infected reindeer carcasses that had been buried long ago. This led to one human death and the hospitalization of nearly 90 people. This tragic event starkly underlined the potential for old, forgotten diseases to re-emerge from their icy tombs. So the good people of Longyearbyen, quite sensibly and pragmatically, decided to act. The law effectively prohibiting death and burial within the town was passed in 1950. The town's existing cemetery was subsequently closed to new burials. So, what actually happens if you live in this unique town of Longyearbyen and become seriously terminally ill? Or if you simply reach a very ripe old age and nature is about to take its course? Well, the town has a clear and established plan for such eventualities. Individuals who are diagnosed as terminally ill are not permitted to spend their final days and pass away in Longyearbyen. Instead, they are usually flown with medical support to the Norwegian mainland. This journey is often more than 2,000 kilometers, a considerable distance to undertake at such a difficult time. This measure is for their specialized palliative care and eventually for their burial or cremation in a place where the ground behaves in a more conventional manner. But life, as we all know, is wonderfully and sometimes tragically unpredictable, isn't it? What if someone dies suddenly while in Longyearbyen? Accidents can happen anywhere, or sudden unexpected illnesses can strike even in the healthiest and most prepared communities. In such unfortunate cases, the body of the deceased is not interred on the Svalbard archipelago. Instead, it is carefully prepared by the local medical personnel and authorities. Then, arrangements are made for the body to be transported off the island, usually back to mainland Norway, for burial or cremation elsewhere. This ensures that the local law is respected and, more importantly, that the unique environmental health risks associated with permafrost are effectively managed. It's a practical, if somewhat stark, modern approach to an ancient problem. Is cremation an option that can be carried out on the island itself, perhaps as an alternative to burial? Well, yes, it is a possibility, but it's not a simple matter, of course, like it might be elsewhere. For those individuals who do pass away in Longyearbyen before they can be moved from the island, cremation can indeed be arranged. However, this isn't like just popping down to the local crematorium, as such facilities don't exist there due to the small population. It requires a special license to be granted by the state authorities. This adds another layer of official procedure and logistical planning to the end-of-life process in this unique Arctic town. It clearly highlights the careful considerations given to every aspect of life and death. It's not just the end of life that is managed differently in this extreme environment. Life's beginnings also have their own set of special rules and procedures. Pregnant women, for instance, are generally not allowed to give birth in Longyearbyen. The town has a small hospital, but it is not equipped for complex deliveries or neonatal intensive care. Therefore, expectant mothers are strongly encouraged to travel to the Norwegian mainland well before their due date. They usually make this journey about a month prior to their expected delivery. This sensible precaution ensures access to comprehensive obstetric and pediatric medical facilities if any complications should arise. It's another fascinating example of how life's most fundamental events are carefully adapted to this remote and challenging Arctic setting. Living in Longyearbyen means fully embracing, or at least tolerating, a truly extreme climate. The cold is, of course, a constant and formidable companion for much of the long year. Temperatures routinely plummet far below freezing, making even simple outdoor tasks a challenge. Even in the height of summer, it's hardly what you'd call tropical or even mild. Average summer temperatures hover between a brisk 3 to 7 degrees Celsius. That's roughly 37 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit, temperatures that many would consider chilly for autumn. The record low temperature ever recorded there is a mind-numbing, bone-chilling minus 46.3 degrees Celsius, or minus 51.3 degrees Fahrenheit. That's cold enough to make your teeth chatter just thinking about it from a warm room. Beyond the pervasive cold, there's the equally dramatic matter of light, or often the profound lack of it. Longyearbyen experiences the true deep meaning of the polar night. For several months during the depths of winter, from late October to mid-February, the sun simply does not rise above the horizon at all. Imagine weeks upon weeks of continuous darkness, a twilight world lit only by the moon, stars, and artificial lights. Then, come summer, the situation flips entirely to the other extreme. The town basks in the perpetual glow of the midnight sun, where the sun circles the sky for months on end without setting. These extreme contrasting cycles of light and darkness profoundly shape daily life, sleep patterns, and even the general mood of the community. Despite these formidable and rather daunting environmental challenges, Longyearbyen is a surprisingly vibrant and functioning community. It's certainly not just a few hardy scientists huddled together in isolated research huts, as one might imagine. Around 2,000 people from diverse backgrounds and nationalities call this remote outpost home. The town boasts many essential amenities that make life comfortable and sustainable, including a school, a well-stocked supermarket, a modern hospital, a post office, and even a couple of pubs and restaurants. It has also become a significant international hub for scientific research, especially for vital studies related to climate change, glaciology, and fragile polar ecosystems. To ensure everyone can cope, prospective residents often undergo health checks before being permitted to move there. So, that peculiar and oft-discussed law about not dying in Longyearbyen. It might seem exceedingly strange at first glance, perhaps even a bit macabre or like something from a quirky novel, but when you understand the reasons, it emerges as a perfect and fascinating example of human ingenuity and our remarkable capacity for adaptation. It clearly demonstrates how communities must adjust their customs, traditions, and even deeply ingrained practices surrounding life's end to coexist successfully with their specific environment. The rule is a direct, logical, and entirely practical response to the unyielding realities of permafrost and the associated public health concerns. It's a living testament to how powerful environmental factors can fundamentally shape a society, its rules, and its very way of life, especially in Earth's most extreme and demanding corners.